What you think about that?
He didn't do.
Just like that, Charleston White openly declared David innocent and backed it up with proof no one saw coming. The evidence he revealed shocked everyone, flipping the entire case on its head and making people question everything they thought they knew. When news first broke that a dismembered body had been found in a Tesla registered to rising music star David, the internet erupted with accusations, wild theories, and outrage. Headlines branded him guilty before a trial even started. Fans argued over whether his lyrics were secret confessions, and brands rushed to cut ties to save their image. But in the middle of all the noise, one voice rose above the rest. Charleston White, famous for being bold, controversial, and unapologetically unfiltered. He stunned audiences when he declared that the 20-year-old artist wasn't guilty at all, and claimed that the very fact there had been no arrest yet was the clearest sign of David's.
What you think about that?
He didn't do it.
Fuck out of here. All the evidence that's out there.
It wasn't just a casual statement. Charleston doubled down with reasoning he believed no one could ignore. He argued that in America, especially when it comes to young black men, people are arrested every day with far less evidence. If law enforcement really had strong proof against David, Charleston said he would already be sitting in a jail cell. He pointed out that police often arrest people with little to no evidence just to hold them while they investigate. To Charleston, the fact that no charges had been filed didn't mean authorities were building a bigger case. It meant they had no case at all.
If they found a dead body in me and your car, and this is our car, do you think they'll let me and you stay out like long as they got out? So think about this.
That blunt comparison drove Charleston's point home. He argued that if any regular person had a body tied to them, they'd be locked up on the spot. The fact that David was still touring, appearing in public, and living freely, Charleston said spoke louder than any rumor. But he didn't stop there. He went further, breaking down the claims that David had been involved with an underage girl and connected to her violent death. Social media was flooded with speculation, showing matching tattoos, leaked photos, and even song lyrics fans claimed were secret confessions. But Charleston dismissed the whole narrative, saying it was too perfect, too polished, and too carefully put together to be true.
So think about this. If they got all this information on him dating a minor, an underage kid, and she looked like a white girl, mixed girl, what they let just stay free like this?
The way Charleston told it, the entire case simply didn't make sense. A black artist allegedly connected to a missing 15-year-old girl, supposedly with physical evidence tying him to her death, yet there were no charges, no arrest, not even a brief detainment. To Charleston, that silence from police wasn't incompetence. It was proof that David might not be the monster everyone thought he was. And staying true to his style, he didn't hesitate to make his audience uncomfortable. He reminded them how the body was found, dismembered and hidden, a crime that, in his view, took a level of planning and cruelty that didn't match David's public image. He pushed people to question whether the whole situation could have been a setup, whether someone else might have actually been responsible. They got all this evidence saying he did it, the body was butchered and still no arrest, he emphasized. Those words spread fast across X, YouTube, and Instagram, splitting the internet. Some said he was defending the indefensible, protecting a man whose own car held a teenager's remains. Others believed he was one of the few brave enough to say what they had been quietly wondering. Maybe the story wasn't as clear as it seemed. And Charleston didn't just drop a hot take and vanish. He kept returning to the topic, repeating his arguments and building momentum. To him, it wasn't just odd that David hadn't been arrested. It was impossible to accept the story as it was presented. He even drew comparisons to one of the most famous legal battles in American history, the O.J. Simpson trial.
You mean to tell me O.J. was found with a bloody glove, he was arrested immediately? Immediately, with all the circumstantial evidence they found on O.J., they placed it. So you mean to tell me they got all of this on this and he still get to move freely amongst America?
By bringing up O.J., Charleston wasn't just tossing out a random comparison. He was challenging what he saw as a double standard in how justice works. He argued that police often arrest people on the weakest circumstantial evidence just to hold them. So if David really had all this supposed proof stacked against him, why hadn't they done the same here? To Charleston, that was the question no one wanted to answer. From there, he pushed the discussion into darker territory, floating scenarios where someone else could have orchestrated the entire thing. These suggestions were hard to hear and made many.
And let me think outside the box. Maybe his mama done it. Maybe her mama done it and set him up. Maybe one of them racist uncles or cousins don't like her. Maybe the other boyfriend done it. Maybe the pimp who was sex trafficking her for the last year when she ran away done it.
These weren't careful legal defenses. They were raw, explosive speculations thrown into the public like grenades. And that was exactly why Charleston's voice spread so widely. He wasn't bound by courtroom etiquette or cautious phrasing. He spoke bluntly, emotionally, and without filters, which made his words resonate with a huge audience. Through that style, he painted a picture of a case that, in his eyes, simply didn't make sense. He even mocked the idea that David's relationship with the victim was obvious, questioning the viral matching tattoo theory that had fueled so much online speculation. Fans had pointed out that both David and the 15-year-old victim had she tattooed on their index fingers, claiming it was undeniable proof of intimacy, but Charleston rejected that argument entirely. To him, a tattoo wasn't evidence. It was just another piece of internet gossip turned into a headline. Then came one of the most controversial moments in his defense, the moment that drew the most outrage. Charleston turned his criticism directly toward the girl, using language many—
I said, man, he wrong for calling her a little hoe, but she was. Little girl don't run away from home, little hoes and little—
That statement wasn't just harsh, and it was explosive. Critics accused Charleston of blaming the victim and defending David by attacking a child who could no longer defend herself. But Charleston supporters argued that he wasn't excusing anything. He was forcing people to question whether the story being told about David was too one-sided. In his mind, asking uncomfortable questions was better than blindly believing the narrative. He kept returning to the racial angle, making it the core of his defense. They don't let black men get away with these kinds of crimes. Not in America. That line echoed across social media, and for Charleston, it was the ultimate proof. If a young black man had really committed something this horrific, Charleston insisted he wouldn't still be walking free. The fact that David was still out in public uncharged meant there had to be more to the story. That's what made Charleston stand out. While others focused on tattoos, leaked DMs, and song lyrics, he zoomed out to look at the bigger picture: race and how the justice system acts when the cameras are on. By this point, Charleston wasn't just questioning the case. He was tearing it apart, piece by piece, and daring anyone to prove him wrong. His words carried the weight of someone who had spent his life watching injustice unfold. To him, this wasn't just about one rapper. It was about a system that had never been fair to black men suddenly looking suspiciously fair in a case that seemed perfect for a quick conviction. Charleston's logic was almost a paradox. The body found in a Tesla registered to David, the alleged relationship with a minor, the disturbing lyrics. Most people saw guilt. Charleston saw innocence, because if David were truly guilty, he argued, the system wouldn't hesitate to lock him up. It was a strange kind of defense. Charleston wasn't denying that evidence existed. He was saying there was so much of it that the lack of an arrest felt like the biggest clue of all. To him, this contradiction demanded an explanation, and he went further by imagining scenarios few others dared to consider. What if, he asked, this wasn't David's crime at all? What if it was a setup carefully designed to look airtight but was actually full of holes? Those questions turned Charleston's commentary into a viral spectacle. Some dismissed him as reckless and irresponsible, while others found themselves nodding along, because setups and cover-ups weren't unheard of in the world of celebrity scandals, and Charleston knew how to keep that tension alive. He kept bringing the discussion back to one undeniable fact: David was still free. Okay, the girl is dead. He was dating a 13-year-old. We have all this evidence, and you want me to believe police haven't even arrested him? For Charleston, the answer was simple. David didn't do it. That was the hill he chose to die on. He knew his stance would spark backlash, with people accusing him of downplaying the death of a child or excusing behavior that shouldn't be excused, but Charleston never feared backlash. He thrived on it. As social media exploded with debates over whether his defense was truth-telling or trolling, Charleston doubled down. He urged his audience to think about every case where young black men had been dragged into courtrooms over rumors, arrested on suspicion, and locked away based on maybe and probably. Yet here was a case stacked with DNA, tattoos, songs, a car, and endless headlines, and still no arrest. To Charleston White, that wasn't coincidence, it was proof of innocence. For millions watching online, it was the kind of statement that made them stop, replay, and wonder if maybe he was right. But Charleston White's defense of David didn't come out of nowhere. To understand why his words went viral, why millions engaged with his opinion, and why even his most extreme claims carried weight, you have to understand the man himself. Charleston White isn't just another commentator with a microphone. He is a man built on controversy, someone whose life has been shaped by crime, redemption, hypocrisy, and spectacle. Born in 1977 in Texas, Charleston's life took a violent turn by age 14 when he was involved in a fatal altercation outside a Foot Locker store that left a man dead. As a teenager, he was tried as an adult, convicted of murder, and imprisoned until he was 21 years old. That moment left him with both a criminal record and a permanent stain on his name. To his critics, it proves he has no moral ground, but to Charleston, it is the foundation of his life story, a mistake that fuels his outspoken mission today. After his release, he tried to rebuild his life, becoming a community activist, and even founding the Hypocrisy Over Politics Hope organization to guide kids away from gangs and crime. For a while, it looked like he might stay on the path of redemption, using his past as a warning to others. But Charleston was never built for quiet change. His personality, his energy, and his need to provoke pulled him back into the spotlight, not as a saint, but as a firebrand. By the 2020s, he had become a polarizing figure whose name was synonymous with chaos, controversy, and viral moments. Charleston had become infamous for his brutal honesty and his willingness to call out anyone. Rappers, politicians, even whole communities, using names like T.I. and D4vd's as fuel for his brand of commentary. He didn't just criticize them. He attacked their families, their parenting, and their reputations. Each insult went viral. Each feud brought him more followers, and each time he did it, people asked the same question. Was Charleston White telling the truth or just saying anything for attention? His feud with streamer Aiden Ross became one of his most notorious moments. During a 2023 live stream, Charleston pepper sprayed Ross's associate on camera, causing chaos and sparking legal threats. That single act perfectly captured who Charleston was: volatile, unpredictable, and impossible to ignore. In another viral incident, he waved stacks of cash at hecklers during a comedy show, taunting them instead of calming things down. To some, it was entertainment. To others, it was proof that Charleston wasn't a reformed activist, but a showman addicted to outrage. That's exactly why people listen to him. Charleston doesn't just speak, he embodies contradiction. One moment he's condemning gangs and preaching accountability, the next he's mocking victims, joking about deaths and laughing at tragedies. In September 2025, he even cursed out the family of conservative commentator Charlie Kirk after his death, dismissing it as white-on-white crime and laughing about it. That single moment summed up Charleston perfectly: part truth-teller, part troll, and completely unfiltered. When Charleston White talks, people listen for two reasons. Either they believe he's exposing hard truths, or they're waiting for him to contradict himself. Either way, his words spread fast. That's why, when he turned his attention to David's case, it mattered. Charleston's voice doesn't live in a vacuum. It thrives in controversy. This time, his target wasn't a rapper or a politician. It was the system itself and its claim that David was guilty. By the time Charleston backed David, his reputation was already built on scandals, viral rants, and explosive moments. He wasn't some newcomer stepping into the spotlight. Charleston was already a storm, and his involvement added even more thunder to the chaos. In early 2024, he made headlines after mocking the deaths of Chicago rapper King Von and Houston's Takeoff. He didn't just mention them, he laughed, calling their deaths the natural end of street life. Those clips went viral and convinced many that Charleston was no longer a reformed activist, but a professional antagonist. Then came his public feud with D4vd's, where Charleston accused him of being a bad father, saying he was leading his kids into the same crime-filled life D4v had lived. D4v fired back, and Charleston escalated things further, throwing out threats that blurred the line between comedy and real violence. To Charleston, it was just honesty. To critics, it was harassment. Even police weren't safe from his rants. He mocked entire departments and even once claimed he'd shoot any cop who tried him. The contradictions never stopped. A man who spoke against gangs but still glorified confrontation and violence. Yet Charleston thrived in that chaos. Every insult, every fight, every outrageous claim only grew his audience. By 2025, he was less an activist and more a one-man media circus. Whether he was flashing guns on Instagram Live or clowning rappers in interviews, he had learned to turn controversy into profit. So when he defended David, critics dismissed him as clout chasing. After all, what bigger story could a provocateur jump on than a teenage pop star accused of murder? But that was the paradox. The more people accused him of chasing attention, the more attention he got. His defense of David wasn't quiet or private. It was blasted across YouTube, TikTok, and X, where millions watched, argued, and shared it. One clip in particular went viral, where Charleston said, "Listen, hold on. If they found a dead body in me and your car, and this is our car, do you think they'd let me and you stay out long?" Taken out of context, the clip still racked up millions of views.